Welcome to episode 64 of the Relationship Marketing Podcast with Cody B. Today's guest is Clint Pulver. Clint is known as the Millennial Speaker. He helps organizations that want to retain, engage, and inspire their people. As the president and founder of the Center for Employee Retention, Clint has transformed how corporations like Keller Williams, AT&T, and Hewlett-Packard create lasting loyalty through his work and research as the Undercover Millennial. For over a decade, he has been a self-motivated entrepreneur who is well-versed in business startup, sales management, management training, and growing multi-million-dollar accounts. Clint understands firsthand that relationships are based on trust, service, support, connection, and consistent follow-through. Clint is from Heber City, Utah. He is a graduate of Utah's premier flight program, having received his pilot's license from OK3 Air and Utah Valley University, UVU, where he has also received his bachelor's degree in speech communication with high distinction from UVU's nationally ranked leadership program. Clint was very active in college as a presidential leader in the Center for the Advancement of Leadership, orientation director, UVU ambassador, and former UVU student body vice president. Clint was recently featured in Business Q magazine as one of their top 40 under 40 as a premier corporate keynote speaker. He has appeared on America's Got Talent and in several different feature films with actors like Jack Black, School of Rock, and John Heder, Napoleon Dynamite. Clint strongly believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. He has traveled the world speaking to youth and adult audiences alike, challenging them to dream, excel, connect, and believe both in themselves and in the power of others. In his new book titled I Love It Here, retention expert Clint Pulver has captured the truth behind the real wants and needs of your employees in a way you wish you could. Clint pulls back the curtain to reveal the research and unscripted truth of the 10,000 plus employees he has interviewed as the Undercover Millennial and the reasons behind their lasting loyalty. And now, Cody B.
Hey everybody, this is Cody Bateman. Welcome to our latest episode of the Relationship Marketing Podcast. Super excited, as always, for the show we have today. Oh my goodness, it just keeps getting better and better all the time. Although every single podcast we do with every guest kind of has its own personality, and you're certainly going to get personality today. Let me tell you, this is a guy that's doing some great things. I know that the voiceover has already introduced our guest, so you have a little bit of feel of who he is, and I'm going to introduce him in just a second. But before I do, I just want to just a quick shout-out reminder to all of our viewers, all of our listeners. Kudos to you for all that you're doing to make the world a better place. This podcast is about kindness. This podcast is about helping other people to live their dreams, making true, genuine human connection with other human beings. It's about that more than anything else. It's about acting on your promptings, reaching out in kindness to other people, and that's what it's about. Now, there's side effects to that. The side effects are, great relationship marketing. You can be implemented by doing these things. Return on investment can be realized and enjoyed by being kind to your clients. Generates referral business for you. Many of you listen in on this so that you can get little tidbits on how to improve your relationship marketing and attain better clients and stuff like that. And those are some of the results you get from this show, but we always like to express the why behind the show. And the why behind this show, as you know, is to bring more kindness to the world and to bring people together, bring people of all backgrounds together. We've got the Undercover Millennial on with us today, Mr. Clint Pulver. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Cody. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're super excited to have you. Some of our listeners are probably already YouTubing, getting on YouTube or getting on Google to check out who you are. Let me tell you, you're going to see some crazy stuff. First of all, I just want to congratulate you on your success and your ability to take your gifts and talents to the stages around the world and really to help people of all ages to understand how to connect with each other at a deeper level. You do a great job, and I just want to applaud you for that.
Thank you. It's yeah, we're very lucky when you get to do something that you love, but also something that benefits other people. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to having you at one of our events in the future. We just appreciate all that you're doing out there. Now, I want to jump in. This is going to be, we're taking the gloves off. We're gonna we're gonna have a discussion. There's been a lot of talk. Well, there is a lot of talk, as you know. It's part of why you even are branded somewhat as the undercover millennial. You obviously talk on the subject of retention. You've got some incredible programs on retention. You've got big clients that you help, like AT&T, Keller Williams. List goes on of stuff. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I do want our listeners to know that you're kind of a been there, done that kind of guy. You're out really helping a lot of people with retention plans, retention programs, keeping employees happy. And a lot of what you cover, correct me if I'm wrong, is just the whole, we have a millennial workforce today, and you're a millennial, I guess, right?
Yep, I am.
So we have a millennial workforce, and a lot of that millennial workforce is there, and there's older generations that are part of the management of millennial group, and vice versa. There's a lot of millennials that actually manage the older groups, and there is definitely a difference. I mean, there's a difference between the millennial group and the Gen X group versus perhaps a guy like me who's what would I be? I guess I'm a baby boomer or whatever. I'm a super young baby boomer, by the way. I'm on the borderline of being a baby boomer. I was born in 1964, so. But you talk a lot about this, so I want to start with that. Mr. Undercover Millennial, helping us old folks talk to young folks. What is some of the key messaging that you feel is important for the older generation to learn about communicating with and making the younger generation feel appreciated?
Sure, great question. If I can, I'd love to start at the beginning and give just a little bit of context on how this all came to be and the movement behind what we're trying to do and create in the workplace. Because I believe if we can create better workplaces, then we create better mothers and fathers, and we create better families. And so much of our work and what we do at the office reflects in who we become as a person. And so that is really our goal, is how do we create better workplaces, better organizations that people like themselves best because they're at work. 5 years ago, I had the opportunity, I was a part of a mastermind group. We were in New York City, and we were meeting with a ton of different CEOs, executives, people that have built large organizations in the hustle and bustle of one of the biggest cities in the world. And one of the people that we had the opportunity to meet with owned a large sporting good chain of retail outlets. And we were talking to him about this empire that he had built. And I asked him about his business and how he's had to change and adapt his business style, his business strategy to an ever-changing marketplace. And he agreed with me, and he said 100%. He said, what we do today in business is 10 times different than what we did 20 years ago. He said, we're on Snapchat now. We have Instagram. We're on Amazon. So much of what we do is through social media and paid for ads. The whole old brick and mortar mentality of setting up a shop, advertising in the newspaper and hoping somebody that will walk into your store is just dead. It does not work that way. So we've had to adapt. And I'll never forget, in his New York accent, he said, you got to adapt or you're going to die. And I was like, okay, that's very profound. And then I asked him the question, I said, so what about your management style? Have you had to change? And he's a baby boomer, just like you, Cody. He said, I asked him, have you had to change your management style to what you do today versus what you did 20 years ago? And he fired back with the response of no. He said, the way I manage today is the same way I managed 20 years ago, and we get results. And it was another really profound statement. And I said, oh, okay. I was very interested in that response because he felt the need to change his business strategy to meet the demands of a changing world. But he did not change his people strategy to meet the demands of a changing world. And I remember thinking through that as he responded. And I looked around in his store. We're sitting in his flagship store in Manhattan, and all of his employees are my age or younger. And I thought to myself, I wonder if they would say the same thing. I wonder if they would have the same approach, if they would talk about how wonderful and great this empire that he's built really is. And I thanked the gentleman for his time. We had about 35 minutes to kill in his store before we went and met with the next person. He gave us a little bit of a discount. He said, go buy some swag, whatever you want. We're in a sporting goods store. I didn't want any swag per se, but I was curious to see what his employees had to say. And I looked literally how I look today. I had a hoodie on, backwards hat, young person. I was not an employee of the store. It had nothing to do with the store. And I went up to the first employee that I saw, and I just simply asked, hey, I'm just curious, what's it like to work here? And I literally, in that moment, I felt like I was in like a drug deal, because the employee like looks around and he's like, do you really want to know? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I want to know. And he goes, I hate it here. He said, probably the worst job I've ever had. He's like, I literally feel like I'm a number. They don't care about me. They could care less about my schedule. There's no flex in the company. I literally do my job, put my head down, try not to tick anybody off, try not to ask too many questions, and just not get fired. And I said, well, why don't you quit? And he goes, oh, I've already applied to 3 places, and I'm just waiting. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe this employee's had a bad day. And so I thanked that employee for his time, and I went and I interviewed another employee. At the end of the 35 minutes that I had, I interviewed 6 of his people. At the end of the conversation, Cody, 5 out of the 6 of his employees said they would not be working for this guy and his store in less than 3.5 months. And some people hear that story and they go, well, it's because they're millennials, or it's because they're entitled, or maybe it's just because we're not doing business right. And maybe we're missing a few things, because there was some real and authentic points and things that employees consistently told me that I kept thinking, what if the manager could hear this? What if the CEO could know this? And what a difference we could make in working together and creating a win-win and learning to collaborate with each other, not control. What about seeing potential, not limitation, possibilities? And so that was the moment for me that I started the Undercover Millennial program. We have worked with hundreds of organizations, and we have interviewed thousands of employees undercover. And we believe that we have created the most real and authentic data as to how great leaders were creating organizations that their people never wanted to leave. The magic of the research was not found when an employee would say, I hate my job, or I'm dissatisfied with my work. The magic of the research is when I would go in undercover looking like this, and I would go in simply as someone who was looking for a job. And I'd go up to the first person that I saw, and I just said, hey, I'm just thinking about applying. What's it like to work here? The magic of all of the research is when an employee, when I would ask that question, would say, I love it here. I love my job. I love my manager. Susie, you got to meet Susie. You're taking an application, you got to apply. The culture, what we're doing, what we're building, it's unbelievable. And and that's what our book is all about. We've got a book that's coming out in the spring of 2020, and the book's called I Love It Here: How Great Leaders Create Organizations That Their People Never Want to Leave. And it showcases, based off of our research and the responses of great organizations, that really were cultivating places that employees never wanted to leave.
So, okay, really good stuff. And I love it. I've actually heard your story on YouTube and different places where I've gone and looked at your stuff before. So love that story, by the way. I think it's great. It really sets up the tone as to what you do. I'm going to come from you from the standpoint of a baby boomer talking to a millennial, and because I think this is an important discussion. What I'm trying to do is educate my generation, because I have had to learn some of this stuff the hard way. And again, this show is all about bringing people together. That's what it's about. I mean, and we talk a lot about ethnicity, the diversity in our ethnicity and different races and stuff like that, and having all those groups of people come together, different religious, different political backgrounds, you name it.
Yeah.
We touch on all of those subjects where I believe, Clint, that it's in diversity that the greatest blessing of humankind exists. It's not in our sameness, it's in our diversity.
Yeah,
that the greatest blessing exists. And you bring up a very important topic on the subject of age difference and age upbringing and those kinds of things, which is yet again another difference or diversity thing that we have. And so this is a very important topic. Now, I've had to learn a lot of these lessons the hard way, because again, I'm coming from the standpoint of, I'm just going to be straight. Yeah, I'm just straight. And I've had this conversation on this show before with other guests. A lot of times when my generation is working with the millennial group, a lot of times it be it right or wrong, it comes across like the millennials coming in saying, look, you need to adapt to how we are. Mm-hmm. We don't have to adapt to how you are. Now, I'm just going to be straight with you. It lands that way. It lands that way. And when it lands that way, naturally defenses go up. So what I just said, there's a lot of our baby boomer age listeners that are really nodding their head like right now saying, yes, millennials probably don't even get what I just said. You know what I mean? But it does. A lot of times when this conversation starts, it come across like the millennials like, look, you have to adapt to us. We're not going to adapt to you. And you're old school and you're the old way, and the world's changed now. So you have to do everything the way we tell you that we'll accept you to do it. And quite honestly, that's where some of the enabling, it feels like an enabling attitude is hitting you. Correct. What do you say to that? Am I full of it? Is that a concern, or am I up in the night?
There's definitely, I mean, you look at the media, you look at articles, you look at even research that's been done, and there is that when you talk about the millennials, even Gen Z, there's this entitled mentality. There's this, it seems like there's call it friction. There's just a misunderstanding, right? But here's the thing too, is I have also found baby boomers that only hire millennials. Yeah. I have found organizations that are only hiring millennials and Gen Z because they've learned how to lock into this opportunity in a younger generation. But here's the thing that I need to say first and foremost. In all of our research, we have found, and I back this up and I will live and breathe this until the day I die, that millennials are no different than baby boomers. Gen Z employees are no different than Gen Xers. People are people. People are people. Everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody wants to be seen, heard, and understood. Whether you're a boomer, you're a millennial. When we have found that there are basic core human principles. Now, the world that the millennials have grown up in, digital age and Instagram and texting and phones, and it's different. Hence, that affects how we perceive our world. But people are still people, and we have found how great leaders have created connection and loyalty with a younger generation. The first thing they have done is they get rid of the stigma. You get rid of the stereotype. They do not call millennials millennials. They call them people. They call them colleagues. They call them partners. And they have learned that every person, even the boomers, everyone's asking everybody the question, let me know when it gets to the part about me. Let me know when you millennial, let me know when you want to work and you want to earn the promotion. And the millennials saying, let me know when you care about my goals and my dreams. Everybody's asking the question, let me know when it gets to the part about me. And I think the better we get at becoming advocates for one another, and ultimately, it's a system of support. It is a system of win-win. But I have to come to the boomers or even the millennials that are leading, the Gen Xers that are leading. If you have the title and the position of boss, if you are a leader, if you are a manager, there is a responsibility that comes with that. You as the manager, you are the number one reason why your people stay, or you're the number one reason why people leave. And so I think that's the first thing that we've got to address, that as the mentors, as the managers, as the leaders, you have to remember that it starts with you. You are the influencer, and you cannot change anybody but yourself. So you must start with you. And we have found that the greatest leaders have become mentors, not managers. They advocate for their people as much as they develop them. And that was the special sauce that created connection and loyalty that was unbelievably powerful.
I love what you're saying, that we're not we're not any group, we're just people. I love that. I mean, that's core to all the messaging we do. I have a book titled Power of Human Connection, and I talk so much in that book about that at the end of the day, we're just human beings.
Yes.
We all have the desire to love and be loved. We have the desire to be heard. We have the desire to be understood. We have the desire to be respected, and it's pretty simple. It really is. And so I really resonate with your message there and what you're saying, and it's so true. Again, just based on experience of, I run a business with close to 100 employees, most of which are millennials, Gen Xers, Gen Zers, whatever. It's a younger group of people. We have great retention here. I'm not going to say I'm the perfect boss. I'm probably not. There's a lot of things that I probably do as an old schooler that might rub somebody wrong or whatever. But I'm striving to learn what those things are and do it. At the same time, I want to be a leader and lead.
Yeah.
At the same time, I want to, have certain principles. We have expectations here. There are principles that you live by here. There are expectations to your job. We are going to hold you to those expectations. The only time I get a little crazy about this conversation of how to manage is that when, and again, it's not millennials, it's not Gen X, it's people. People either migrate to the greatest principles of leadership and management, or they migrate to the worst principles of management and that kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? And so a lot of people will use, and I've seen this, a lot of people will use their age difference, gender difference, whatever, to try to manipulate their situation or to better their own situation or to push their own personal agenda. And that goes on for any group of people. So that where it's challenging for me is that when I enforce what an expectation is and they get labeled as the baby boomer that just doesn't understand me, that gets under my skin, Clint. It gets under.
Yeah.
So how do I deal with that?
Yeah. So in our research, we found that there's always 4 types of bosses in every organization. So you have the removed manager, you've got the controlling manager, you've got the mentor manager, and then we've got the buddy manager. All 4 of those managers have different stances on 2 determining factors. And I think it's important to label these. Standards is one, and connection is the other. Every time when an employee was either satisfied or dissatisfied with their job, I could always correlate it back to those 2 things. Either the standards of the company were too high, or the expectations were too high. There was too much control, too much command, and not enough connection. Or there was too much connection and not enough standards. And so every one of those managers has a different, like, for example, the removed manager, low on connection and low on standards. So that created disengagement in the employees. Or you have the manager that's high on standards, but low on connection. And then every time that created rebellion. And the key that we found is being high on both, that you are as equally level with your connection as you are with your standards. It's like a bank account. Every time you're putting in deposits of trust, and the more deposits of trust you put in allows you to make the withdrawals. And I think sometimes bosses, managers are taking out constant withdrawals. They're demanding without making deposits of connection, right? It's that age-old adage of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I grew up kind of on a farm and raising animals, and I know that's not true. If I want a horse to drink, I just salt the oats. If I put salt in the oats with that horse is going to drink. The salt is the connection. We must connect. You must advocate. And so I ask managers and leaders, do you know your people's dreams? Do you know what matters to them? Because they are asking you, let me know when it gets to the part about me.
Right.
And I guarantee when you start to do that more, you create consistent trust, you create consistent loyalty, you create buy-in, you create a better culture, because it's an organization of advocacy, not just development. And when you do that, you create an empowered workforce, and an empowered workforce always increases higher productivity. Because you're right, at the end of the day, Cody, you've got to run a business. You've got demands. You've got a product. You've got your initiatives. And those are equally as important as the connection of your people. But we cannot forget that what we do and why we do it is about people. And when they know that, and they know that you know that, and you live and lead in that way, you set up a foundation that allows you to be significant in your organization, not just successful.
Man, that's good stuff. That is really, really, really good stuff. I appreciate you approaching that the way that you did. And you've got, it appears you've got some systems that you teach people on. By the way, there's some stuff I'd like to talk to you offline about some projects we're working on that you might want to get to participate in. And it's regarding, some teaching opportunities. You're a great teacher, brother. You're a great teacher. I love the way that you present yourself and teach principles like you're doing on this show right now. So books coming out. I love it here. Spring of 2021. I'm assuming that a lot of this stuff you're talking about will be in the book.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really, really good stuff. And let's talk a little bit about some of your stage antics. You're kind of a like-minded person with me. I get on a stage and do crazy stuff all the time. I'm a rapper. I like to do rap music and there's a story behind that. And you're a drummer. Like, you're a big league drummer, professional drummer, and part of your routine is you have a full drum set up on the stage and you do a piece. By the way, you're pretty darn good. I mean, I've heard heard you do those drum solos. Pretty cool stuff.
Thank you.
How did all that get started? I mean, and what, to me, that's the coolest thing in the world. I mean, how did all that start for your speaking, to actually have the courage, I guess, to bring the drum set up there for, an audience and just start playing the drums?
Yeah. So when I was a young kid, I was labeled as a problem. I was labeled as the kid that could never sit still. I was the kid that constantly moved. I still have a hard time sitting still. Every time when I would move, it helped me to just focus. It helped me to channel my energy. And I constantly got nicknamed the twitcher, the tapper. Didn't want to come to school. Even the teachers would consistently say, Clint, you got to sit still. Clint, hold still. Stop tapping. And a female teacher, she sent me to the principal's office. She couldn't deal with me anymore. And the principal was like, what did you do? And I said, I have a hard time sitting still. And he said, well, I want you to go back to class and just sit on your hands then. I don't know what else to do with you. Just sit on your hands. Don't hit anything. Don't tap on anything. He thought it was a decent idea. I went back to my class, and as soon as I started to focus, my hands started to tap again. But then I remembered that I needed to sit on my hands. But as soon as I sat on my hands, then my feet would start to tap. I just consistently would move. And I remember one day there was a teacher, and his name was Mr. Jensen. Been teaching for a long time. White hair, big Coke bottle glasses, always wore a red tie. And he looked at me as I was tapping in class, and he just gently said, he goes, Clint, I need you to stay after class. We're going to talk. And I'm thinking, this is it. Like, I'm getting kicked out of school. And bell rings, class dismissed, everybody leaves. It's a completely empty room, minus Mr. Jensen and myself. And he takes me to the back of the room. He sits me down and he says, I've got a question that I've got to ask you. And he said, listen, you're the problem kid. You're the kid that gets stereotyped. You tap in my class, you do it in everybody else's class. He said, you're the kid that got sent to the principal's office. He said, but I want to know something. He said, can you tap your head and rub your belly at the same time? And I was like, what a weird request. And he's like, try it. And I gave it a go, and I could do it. And he said, now switch it. He said, can you rub your head and then tap your belly? And I could do it. And he goes, now switch back. Now switch again. And literally, without thinking about it, I could do it. And he leaned back in his chair and he looked at me and he said, I don't think you're a problem. I just think you're a drummer.
Wow.
And most people, Cody, go, what's the difference between those two? I don't think you're a problem. I just think you're a drummer. And I am a person, Cody, that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And if you look at our lives and what makes it a great story, it's usually the moments, those moments that just, it's the significance of those experiences that shape who you become. And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back in his desk and he opened up the top drawer and he reached inside and he took out my very first pair of drumsticks.
Wow.
And he gave them to me. And that was 22 years ago. And he said, Clint, I want you to just keep them in your hands. And for 22 years, I've had the opportunity to tour and record all over the world playing drums. I've been on America's Got Talent, played with some amazing artists. My whole college education was paid for with music scholarships. And now I perform all over the world on stage telling his story. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about advocates, why I'm passionate about people that just get to the part about you. Because from that moment, it didn't matter what Mr. Jensen told me. It didn't matter what he asked me to do. I said, how high? I said, how far do you want me to run? How hard do you want me to work? Because he cared about me. I believe that great mentors connect people to their dreams. And I look back at some of the most influential leaders in my life, and they have always been those people. No significant loyalty ever happens without significant connection. You need significant connection, and he did that for me.
So you were all listening to Clint Pulver, the Undercover Millennial, master drummer, incredible, inspirational guy, and love your story, Clint. What a beautiful story you just shared. And you know, and I've found that, like you said, you know, those aha moments in life all revolve around some kind of story, and you have such a powerful story that ties in with everything you do today. And what a blessing, you know, what a blessing that is for you, for your family, but also a blessing for those you serve. So hats off to you, my friend. What we like to do on this show is I always, you know, I've kind of put some boundaries around you by my line of questioning. So you've been, you've had to just answer the question. So I like to close the show by just, it's freestyle time. It's like, you know, you're gonna get on that drum set and freestyle a little bit. It's freestyle time. Anything you want to talk about, anything you want to discuss, no questions anymore. This is just full on 100% genuine Clint Pulver. Just take it home and share with us a message that you feel that our listeners really need to hear right now. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Thank you. I think right off just off the cuff here, I would say 100%. Everybody needs to know that you fail your way to success, and that we live in a world right now where many of us, we face negativity, whether it's through the media, social platforms, friends, family, issues with our children, our spouses, relationships, hard things within business. Some of us struggle with depression and anxiety, mental conditions, or health concerns. And the failure is sometimes so hard to deal with. It's sometimes so hard to see the good in those moments of weakness, in those moments of limitation. And as someone who's been labeled a problem in my life, it is easy to see what's wrong with people, but the value comes in when you can see what's right. And when you see the possibilities in the moment of failure. And whoever's listening to this, and if you are struggling in some way, shape, or form, I just simply want to say that it always gets better.
Yeah.
No matter how hard, no matter how tough or difficult the time or the situation is, it always will get better, always. And it's been that hope and that reassurance that if I'm willing to hold on and put forth my best effort and surround myself with good people doing good things, I set myself up to write a better story. And it does. It will always get better. You fail your way to success, keep going, and life is magic.
Well, there you have it, my friends. Coming from Clint Pulver. By the way, you can go to clintpulver.com. That's ClintPulver.com find out more about him, you've got, I think I went on there once and you got some links to some of your YouTubes and stuff. You want to check that out. If you want him to, speak at one of your upcoming events or anything like that, go to clintpulver.com and check him out. And we'll be waiting for the book to come out. I'm super excited for I Love It Here, scheduled to come out spring of 2021. So Clint, it's been an honor to have you on this show. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. You're a great blessing, my friend. You're a great blessing to the world. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Cody. It means a lot. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, there you have it, everybody. We look forward to seeing you on another episode. We'll keep them coming. We got them lined up. People just like Clint coming on here with their own unique perspective, their own unique experiences, their own unique stories. Clint had a very, very unique story and approach to life here that we heard today, and I'm a better person for it. I know you are too. And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
If you have enjoyed this episode of the Relationship Marketing Podcast with Cody B, be sure to subscribe to the show and leave a review so that together we can get this message, The Power of Human Connection, out to the world. You can find Cody's new book, The Power of Human Connection, on Amazon or the Send Out Cards gift store.